Good morning and welcome to the CDBG Grant Administration Manual training series. Before we start, a couple of housekeeping notes. First, these trainings will be recorded and available online at a later date. They will be stored with their corresponding chapter on the Grant Administration Manual website. In order to find the new Grant Administration Manual, please visit our website at commerce.mt.gov. Under the Infrastructure and Planning tab, select Community Development Block Grant. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can select the CDBG Grant Administration Manual. On this page, you can find all of the CDBG Grant Administration Manual chapters and associated toolkits. Second, we will have time for your questions at the end of the presentation. Please hold all your questions until the end, and you can raise your hand and a presenter will unmute you. Please note, if you have any project-specific questions, contact your project specialist or CDBG coordinator, Rosie Golditch. Welcome to the first presentation in the CDBG Grant Administration Manual training series, the Getting Started chapter. My name is Rosie Golditch, and I'm the CDBG coordinator. My co-presenter is Jeanette Blyes, our outreach coordinator. Next slide.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Blyes, and I am the Outreach Coordinator for the Community MT Division at the Montana Department of Commerce. In this session, we will walk you through the Getting Started chapter of our 2025 revision of the CDBG Grant Administration Manual, including significant updates in the way the information and tools are organized compared with the previous version. We will walk you through the key components of this chapter and introduce you to the Getting Started toolkit. We will have time for questions and discussion at the end. Next slide.
There are three major updates to the Getting Started chapter: the layout, inclusion of the civil rights chapter and associated documents, and involving the public and public engagement. At the beginning of this chapter, there is a section detailed Words to Know. This section is included in all of the GAM chapters. In the Getting Started chapter, the words to know include CFR or Code of Federal Regulations, choice limiting actions, grantee, Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, project specialist, startup, and subrecipient. Each of the following GAM chapters will include terms related to the chapter topic and toolkit. In the previous Grant Administration Manual, there was a separate civil rights chapter and associated toolkit. This chapter and toolkit have now been absorbed into the Getting Started chapter.
Another change from the previous manual is that Chapter 1 includes all of our requirements and guidance regarding grantees' efforts to involve the public throughout the life of their project, when in the past, this information was spread out across multiple chapters. Starting on page 16 of Chapter 1, you will find the related state and federal acts, as well as commerce guidance related to documenting public input early on with the public needs assessment and project selection process, documenting comments received with the environmental review, and during construction, which includes federal requirements related to documenting comments and complaints received, and the grantee's response at any time within the life of the project. You will also find commerce guidance regarding any public relations you do related to the project, including press releases and ribbon cutting events, as well as printed materials such as project sign or written communications with residents about the project. Next slide. One key aspect of the Getting Started chapter is that it is organized to clearly outline the differences between meeting startup conditions versus meeting special contract conditions versus having a list of topics to consider and plan ahead for when getting started with your project. The first section of Chapter 1 on pages 2 through 6 include a clear list of the startup requirements that must be met in order for the grantee to be able to execute a CDBG contract with the Montana Department of Commerce. Meeting startup requirements is just that specific list of items that must be submitted or tasks completed before executing the contract. The special contract conditions and additional considerations sections of this chapter are also very important to your overall effort to get started with your project, but separate from executing your grant contract with Commerce. Next slide. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Go back. I believe. Yes.
In the special contract conditions section, the chapter reviews the required documents that must be submitted prior to the first request for reimbursement and after a contract has been executed. These documents include a completed signature certification form, the electronic funds transfer form, insurance and workers' compensation, required environmental review, civil rights resolutions and plans, subrecipient agreements, if applicable, and other special conditions required based on your specific project. Please note, for more information about the environmental review requirements, please visit the environmental review chapter.
The additional considerations portion of this chapter on pages 10 through 15 includes a variety of topics you must be aware of and planning for early on in your project. This section includes budgetary considerations that must be made, planning for the use of program income, additional planning and outreach that must be done when developing a direct benefit project, planning to attend Commerce's CDBG Grant Administration Workshop, and considering the state and federal laws that apply to CDBG funded projects. This chapter also discusses the importance of keeping an organized CDBG project file, which is supported with a Getting Started checklist and file organization chart in the associated Getting Started toolkit. The involving the public section I talked about earlier is included under the additional considerations section of this chapter as well. Next slide.
Now we're transitioning into the Getting Started toolkit portion of the presentation. The Getting Started checklist reviews all of the required materials, including startup conditions, special contract conditions, and others for a successful first request for reimbursement. The file organization chart is a very helpful tool for grantees to organize the variety of documents that are required throughout the startup process. The SAM.gov requirements document informs the grantee of the requirements of either having a UEI, unique entity identifier number, or being registered in SAM.gov. There are also new budget and implementation schedule templates and documenting commitment of non-CDBG funds, i.e. match confirmation. Next slide. The associated Getting Started toolkit includes the documents that ensure the grantee can comply with the requirements explained in the Getting Started chapter. In the Getting Started toolkit, all of the civil rights resolutions, including the Hatch Act, Fair Housing, American Disabilities Act, and Equal Employment Opportunity are included. Although all of the Commerce forms are updated with revised branding and formatting, there is no need to submit new resolutions unless your community does not have existing resolutions on file. The required civil rights documents are special contract conditions and therefore must be on file with Commerce in order to request reimbursement. These resolutions do not expire. To meet ADA requirements, sample self-evaluation inventory and transition plan, 504 and complaint resolution procedures and complaint forms are added. Next slide. There are two versions of subrecipient agreements. As a friendly reminder, the only eligible CDBG applicants are cities, towns, and counties. If you represent a community that is not a city, town, or county, then a subrecipient or interlocal agreement is a required part of getting started. If you are a water, sewer, or water and sewer district, you and your sponsoring city, town, or county must complete the document on the left. If you are a nonprofit or for-profit organization, the sponsoring city, town, or county must complete the subrecipient agreement on the right-hand side. If you have questions regarding the conditions in this document, please ask your project specialist for more clarification. Next slide.
The Getting Started toolkit contains a checklist and a project file organization chart to help you set up a well-organized CDBG project file, complete with all the required documentation you will need to have on file by project completion. Using the file organization chart and the checklists contained in each of the toolkits will also help you ensure your project file is well organized and complete when we meet to review the project file. Next slide. Another helpful resource in the Getting Started toolkit is a guide that will help you understand the CDBG requirements related to the Federal System for Award Management, or SAM.gov, that will help you determine if an entity is required to fully register in SAM, how to use SAM.gov to secure a unique entity identifier, or UEI, and when an entity is subject to a debarment check, which is required for contractors working on CDBG funded projects. Next slide. The Getting Started toolkit also includes the startup templates and example documents that must be submitted by the grantee, such as the updated budget, implementation schedule, and management plan, as well as a great guide to the types of documentation we accept to demonstrate firm commitments of non-CDBG funds for the most common sources typically included in the funding package of a CDBG community facilities or public facilities project. Next slide.
Thank you for joining the CDBG Grant Administration Manual Training Series, Getting Started chapter. Our contact information is listed here in case you have any questions at a later date. We will now open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand and a presenter will unmute you. While we're waiting for questions to come in, we will show you where to find the documents on the Commerce website. So just as a refresher, please go to commerce.mt.gov. Under the Infrastructure and Planning tab, select Community Development Block Grant. On the left-hand side of the screen, you will see the CDBG Grant Administration Manual. On this page, you can find all of the CDBG Grant Administration Manual chapters and associated toolkits. This will also be where the presentations will be listed at a later date. Any questions? Just a reminder to raise your hand if you have any questions and a present. Oh, go ahead, Keisha.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Hey, one quick thanks for putting this together. I'm excited for this new manual and toolkit. It's going to be so awesome. Anyway, question on this was just brought up with internally in our office because there was two different documents that we were seeing for the section 3 stuff for the civil rights items. I don't know if we'll be talking about section 3 later on. I was just looking at another page on commerce. It's the underneath the it's the section 3 and DBME and the section 3 guidance was just a little different than the toolkit guidance, but I'm sure we'll get to it.
Yeah. So
later.
section 3 will be brought up during the procurement and also, I believe, during the construction and labor presentation next.
Okay, I'll bring it up later then.
Yeah, but if you have any specific questions on like the change in guidance or, anything super specific, you can always just email us and let us know.
Okay.
But if
yeah,
your question isn't answered after today, yeah, let me know.
Okay. One final question, actually. Are you guys able to speak a little louder? I have my computer on full blast, but you're super quiet.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. That's all I had.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Once again, thank you for joining us this morning. We will now have a short break before the next presentation on our construction and labor chapter, which begins at 10:45. Just on a scheduling note, we will now have the URA presentation with the environmental review presentation tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we'll see you later.